Plans to bring new businesses to Delaware, to bring movies to Delaware, and the controversy over tiny homes. This is the Delaware Way. Improving the business climate in Delaware. That's the mission of the man I'm about to introduce you to. I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to the Delaware Way, and this is Rich Heffron, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Delaware. Thanks for coming back. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, Larry.
Let's start with the Wilmington mayoral election. I know we have a general election to go, but the registration is such that whoever wins the Democratic primary goes on to be mayor in most cases. So we're going to assume that Mike Przycki is going to be the mayor of Wilmington. How do you feel about that?
I think the majority of the business community, Mike was one of the candidates, if not the candidate, that they supported. I'm happy. I've known Mike for 30 years. I think he'll be a good mayor. I think he knows exactly what he needs to do, and he said he's going to do one term. One term will give him a lot of freedom to do some of the difficult things that need to be done to turn the city around.
What are the difficult things that need to be done when it comes to the business community?
Well, one is we need to cooperate with the mayor and work with the mayor. It wasn't that Mayor Williams was a bad person. He just didn't come to us for help. He didn't work with us. And public safety. I mean, every debate they had came back to public safety. But public safety isn't just, arresting people who do bad things. The problems that cause the public safety problems are much deeper. And we in the business community understand that. We're willing to work with the mayor. And it's a long-term solution, but we're willing to be part of that solution.
Something that happened under Dennis Williams' watch was the announcement that Chemours was going to stay in Wilmington. I think a lot of people were surprised by that because there had been so many stories that they were going to go to New Jersey and they were going to go to Pennsylvania. I was told the Pennsylvania thing was a done deal, and then they turn around and they're staying in Wilmington. Yeah,
I think a lot of people were surprised, and at one point we were not optimistic, but they had talked to me on a continuing basis for several months, and I kept getting the message, just be patient, you're in good shape. We'd like to stay here. We just need to clear up a couple things. And obviously, in the end, they decided to stay in Wilmington.
MBNA, this would have been devastating if Chemours had left.
Yeah, it would have been devastating. I think that's the right word. But you need to accept the fact that corporate structures have changed globally, and you need to adapt to that change. And this is a positive.
How is Chemours, is it going to be able to survive? There's talk about it going bankrupt.
Well, in today's business world, you're never sure, but talking to them, they're fairly confident that they can grow the company, and we'll work with them and do whatever we need to help them do that.
So for DuPont Material Sciences to stay in Delaware, and that's a big deal too, that they're going to be headquartered here. What does that mean to Delaware?
What it means is DuPont's still here, and it means the message was sent to those people who were part of that merger that DuPont's important to Delaware and Delaware is important to DuPont, and they will be here and the ag business will be here, and that's important both to the image of the state, to once again attracting other businesses, and the DuPont company itself. We've talked to the people at DuPont. We're working with them. We'll continue to do that, and once again, everybody's hoping that they will grow over the years. That's the plan. And if you knew the history of the DuPont company, you would understand that it's changed over the years. This is just that continuum.
What are some of the problems that Delaware has in attracting businesses, not to incorporate here, but businesses to actually build brick and mortar here and create jobs here? Are there some obstacles?
Yeah, there are obstacles. And one of them we've talked about is the whole the process of permitting for companies. It takes too long. We're not as agile as we'd like to be. We're working on that. I think the Coastal Zone Act is one example of that. That was written 40 years ago. The world's changed in 40 years. We have talked about and have talked with the leaders in the state and the to-be leaders in the state about the fact that there are abandoned industrial sites along the coastal zone north of Delaware City that nobody's going to go in and clean up unless there's some benefit to them. And we believe if we take out those particular sites and treat them as brownfields, we can attract businesses to those sites.
What you're saying is you've got some areas along the coastal zone in Delaware that could actually be cleaned up by companies that would come in because the state and the government has not done that.
Obviously, that would be part of the requirement. Well, they're going to want to clean it up anyway if they're environmentally damaged, but that'd be part of the requirement that they clean it up. And it's not only going to be manufacturing, it would be the new advanced manufacturing. It also could be warehousing, other commercial sites. And right now, in Marcus Hook, billions of dollars are being invested in that company and in that new refinery. It's rebuilding the old refinery to meet the service for the Shell oil coming out of western Pennsylvania and Ohio.
That's a fascinating point. And let me stay on that for a second, because you're saying that you go right across the state line into Pennsylvania and along the Delaware River, along the coastal zone, they have redevelopment going on some places that have been left by companies long ago, and it's not happening on the Delaware side. And so what is the difference between Pennsylvania and Delaware?
Coastal Zone Act and some of the requirements
and the
permitting,
though, right?
Well, obviously theirs one. Probably, I don't know what the permitting process is up there, but obviously got to be quicker than ours. And two, the point I'm trying to make is we can service that refinery both with warehousing, light manufacturing, transportation facilities just over the Pennsylvania border in Delaware.
But why come here if it's going to take you a longer period of time?
That's the question. So we need to look at that. And the people at DENREC are working with us. Legislators are working with us. And I think we'll come to an accommodation that'll work for everybody. We
had a professor from Widener University in on the show, and he represents environmentalists and some companies that don't want companies to build along the coastal zone and loves the Coastal Zone Act. And his point was he doesn't know one company that didn't come to Delaware for that. He thinks that you're scapegoating.
That's a facetious argument. The fact of the matter is there are numerous companies that have said publicly that this is a restriction. Number two is a lot of companies, they're not going to tell you that. And number three is you send that signal, you don't even get on the list. We're not even on the list. They have the Coastal Zone Act. We're not going to go there. So, that is a facetious argument. And I think as time goes on, you'll learn that there are some companies that will say, look, if you do this, we will come to Delaware.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's always great to talk to you. I really appreciate it. Rich Heffron, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Delaware. When we come back, bringing business to Delaware with the movie industry. There's a new Delaware Film Commission. We'll find out how they're doing when the Delaware Way continues.